Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Swiss Army Dan coming at you with another Swiss Army knife video. Today I just wanted to take a quick look at the old humble Victorinox classic. And I picked this up recently. It's a vintage classic. You see it doesn't have toothpick and tweezers, but I believe at this time they were available with toothpick and tweezers. I believe they started showing up and all Victorinox knives in 1942. They started becoming available with the toothpick and tweezers. That doesn't mean that all knives had them. They still produced a lot of knives, you know, of all the sizes: 58, 84, 91 millimeter, with and without those toothpick and tweezers. So yeah, as far as I can tell, the toothpick and tweezers were introduced in 1942. This one's cool. You can tell it's vintage because it has this Victoria tank stamp that by most people's accounts was used between 61 and 74. So I believe this knife is from that era. There's the front side of this tank stamp. This one has been used a little bit. One thing I did notice with this older one, the steel on here is thicker. Here is a newer classic SD. And if you compare that, you can tell this one's a little bit thicker, which is pretty consistent with most of their knives of the different sizes. Over time they did get a little bit thinner, but you know, they might have changed the recipe of that steel and were able to make it just as strong, or maybe stronger, without using as much. So that's cool. The other kind of noticeable difference you'll see on this is the nail file. You can see this one's been used quite a bit, but the shape of the knarl on this nail file is different, and you can see it goes all the way to the tip. If you look at a newer one, this is an SD, of course, which is, on a side note, I'm not real sure when this screwdriver tip popped up. You know, I looked quite a bit and haven't been able to find a definitive date. I want to say it was probably introduced in the 70s. That's when a lot of cool stuff was introduced, and I'm not sure. I might be wrong about that, but I bet it popped up around the mid-70s. I'm not sure. That little screwdriver tip on the classic. If anyone has that information, put that in the comments or shoot me a message or something. I'd really appreciate it. Where were we? We're looking at the file. So yeah, this one is just has the nail pick at the end, not the SD version. So yeah, that's a pretty big difference there, isn't it? I know I've had older 74 millimeters. It still kind of follows that pattern of the knarl there on the file. Pretty cool though. There's the difference there. This one actually seems thicker. Maybe when they introduced the SD, they did make this a little bit thicker. This is pretty thin. Then we'll look at the scissors, the other part of the classic. Let's see, I'll compare it to, this one's pretty brand new. I think I got this last year, and it's a late model. So we can see the difference in the scissors here. You know, I think up until probably the 70s or so, maybe even early 80s, a lot of the work done on these Swiss Army knives was by hand, like as far as like the beveling, like someone is actually sitting there holding it against a grinder or whatever. But you see just like the overall, these older ones had a screw there for the screwdriver. And I know this one here is probably from like the 80s. By that time that screw had already popped out. So that's the difference between you know, the screw being in like the 84 91 millimeter scissors. That phased out later. than on the classics. I'm not sure of the date though, but if you can see, this one is just a little bit smaller. There is a little bit more surface area on this one. It's got these older style like bevels on it. It looks more hand done. You know, it looks closer to the scissors that you would see on the larger knives at that time as far as the overall shape. So yeah, I just thought it was cool to actually get a vintage classic. I'd never had a really old 58 millimeter. I mean, this one's not real old. It's at least 50 years old, I'd say. But yeah, there it is. Pretty cool little 58 millimeter knife there. They haven't changed too much other than that classic SD tip. So that's it. I'll keep it there. I appreciate you guys watching. Remember to be kind to each other, like, comment, subscribe, all that. Swiss Army Dan's out.